All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, and welcome back. What what I'm going to do is, for firstly, I hope you all enjoyed the film and found it insightful and thought-provoking. And we've actually received a feedback from some of our viewers, and they've been saying that the film was too sad for them to watch. And unfortunately, that is the reality we've been living in, or we are living in. And we hope that over the course of a couple of weeks and months, and once we start marketing our film, we'll reach out to more audiences, more viewers, raise awareness, and hopefully, I don't know, in a year's time or a decade's time, actually manage to change people's perspective. But yeah, that's the sad reality. But I do hope you all enjoyed the film. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the next 5 minutes open for everyone just to collect everyone's initial reactions to the film. And yeah, if you all could, if you want to speak, all you have to do is unmute yourself, and we will keep it brief to like stick it to 5 minutes. And yeah, so I'm now going to change it to allow participants to unmute so you can start giving your reactions. Over to everyone. Thank you.
I can say that it's very powerful, and it's shocking that it's just happening in plain sight. It's not hidden. It's not nobody's trying to hide anything. It's just blatant and open, and very powerfully communicated. Very nice documentary.
Thank you for him.
This is Mufti Pando here. I've been following the development of the film, not very actively, I'm afraid, but very, very powerful. I think it's going to make a world of a difference to people when they really understand what's going on. So thank you very much for the team, Dr. Manisha, Dr. Leila, and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mufti Bhai.
Hello. Thank you very much, all the team members. Actually, this film is very informative, and because I'm a Delhi-based Jamia student, so the thing is we are facing lots of things. So this is very powerful, and I think may Allah change the perspective of people's, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Syed. All right, we have a minute more. Anyone else wants to chip in or add in anything about the film?
Yeah, I'd like to say something if I can.
Sure, please go ahead.
I thought it
I
was
would just like, it's a really
excellent.
powerful film.
Yes, can I add a comment here? If I
Yes, on you go.
Yes, well, this is an excellent film, very professionally done, and it's really high quality production. And let me give you a new project. You should prepare Imminent Death of a Democracy. I will be the first one to send my 2 cents. Please make a record of that. This is I understand you have a very competent team here. That's the reason I'm suggesting, but this is excellent work. I mean, I could not add anything to improve it. This is really, very good job, very well done. And I hope you should go for the global media, the big channels, like BBC, CNN, and other, get them to show it. It's very impactful, very impactful. Yes, I noticed your acknowledgement. So you have support, you have their ears. So it should not be a difficult task it's because it's done so well. It's done so well. It's a high quality production. So I wish you success. If there is anything I can do to promote this thing, you have my name there. Please reach out to me. I will do all that I can to promote this thing wherever I can. But just make a note. The next task for you is to prepare a documentary, Imminent Death of a Democracy. That's what we are looking at exactly. We are looking at the death of a democracy.
Bhai, I'll get back to you on that one.
Please do that. You have my contact. And unfortunately, I have to leave for another family chore. But this is an excellent production. I mean, thank you all.
Thank you very much, Aftab.
Thank you.
I think Claire Bidwell wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, adding on, I was going to say the excellent of the quality. What I really liked about it as well was the feeling of the people power within there, the way, like the girl that was speaking and the demonstrations and people standing up for it. So for me, I felt a lot of unity within the democratic process, that the people's voice can be really powerful. And that, I mean, to be honest, that film, there was a lot more in it than I expected there to be. And I agree with the last speaker that I think you could reach out to BBC and other channels with that. I really do. I like the way the little things were all, broken down to explore everything. I thought it was excellent. And like I say, the democratic power of it and the people power was something I pulled out of it. So thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm afraid we're running out of time as much as we would love to carry on with the discussion. So I'm going to unfortunately mute everyone again. Thank you, everyone, for watching the film. The film was directed by Dakshin Chara. Dakshin is an award-winning filmmaker, playwright, and an activist from Chara, the denotified tribe of Ahmedabad in the western parts of India, which is in Gujarat. He's also a recipient of Rajiv Gandhi Arts Fellowship and Basha Fellowship to study art forms of nomadic and denotified communities in Gujarat. Currently, he works as an artistic director at Buddha Theatre, which is www.buddhatheatre.org. He's also a founding director of Nomad Movies Private Limited. He has written and directed 13 plays and supervised 48 productions of Buddha Theatre and performed more than 1,000 shows in different parts of India. He was nominated for Heroes of Ahmedabad by Ahmedabad Mirror. As a filmmaker, he has directed 96 fiction and non-fiction films, TV series, all focused on various developments, social and political issues of India. He has recently directed a critically acclaimed Bollywood film named Sameer. Sameer was released in theaters in India in 2017 and was also screened in New York Indian Film Festival, Charlotte Asian Film Festival, and Indian International Film Festival of Queensland, Australia, where he received the Best Director Award for the film Sameer. So a big round of applause for Dakshin, wherever you're seated in your homes, in your couches. Thank you very much, Dakshin, on behalf of Team India and on behalf of everyone. So moving on to the next flow or the next item on our agenda, we've got our first guest speaker for the day, Shri Ram Paniani. Ram Paniani is a former professor and a former senior medical officer affiliated with IIT Bombay. Those of you who do not know, IIT Bombay has a beautiful campus. I just thought the need to add that. He began his medical career in 1973 and served IIT in various capacities for about 3 decades, 27 years. He has now taken voluntary retirement not to go sailing, but to work full-time as an activist working towards communal harmony in India. He's also involved in human rights activities and initiatives to oppose the rising tide of fundamentalism in India. Over to you, Sir Ram Paniani. I'm now going to ask you to unmute yourself and turn on your video, and hopefully this should work. Yeah, you're now unmuted. Thank you.
Yeah, how much time I have got and what is the theme you would like me to focus on? Manisha, how much time I have got?
Sir, you have around 5 to 7 minutes, if that is okay.
Cheryl, Tista is saying she has to go. Would it be possible for Ramji to allow Tista to speak first if he is not in a rush?
Yes, Tista. Anytime.
Thank you very much, Ramji. And
Anytime.
okay, in that case, I'm going to get Tista.
Setalwad.
Yes.
Tista Setalwad.
Okay, just a quick intro on Tista Setalwad. So Tista Setalwad is an Indian civil rights activist and journalist. She's a staunch feminist and campaigns for rights and privileges of Dalits, Muslims, and women. She's the secretary of CJP, which is Citizens for Justice and Peace, an organization formed to fight for justice for the victims of the communal violence in the state of Gujarat in 2002, and the General Secretary for People's Union for Human Rights. She also has an interesting background. She comes from a family of lawyers, and in fact, her grandfather was the first Attorney General. And in 2002, she even testified at the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom against the BJP-led Gujarat government's role in the post-Godhra communal violence. Over to you, Tista. I think you're already on mute now, so over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. First of all, I'd like to begin. Am I audible? Am I audible? Yeah. I just want to begin, first of all, by my very humble tribute to the entire team and the effort that went behind making this film, COVID Blame Game. And it is a very sobering and a sad experience to be able to be shown such a harsh mirror to the kind of times we are living in, which is a reality. What I liked about the film, apart from the obvious competence of Dakshin, who is a well-acclaimed person and whom we all admire, and of course Lailaji's impeccable research, is the fact that it is by turning its mirror to what the kind of hate-letting within India at this point, it has also turned the mirror to the society worldwide, and also looked at the history of such exclusions whenever such pandemics or diseases attack. Having said that, I just want to add a few lines of mine to add maybe to the discourse. Firstly, Manisha ji and team at India Abroad, whatever help you need from me personally for any more screenings, I'm happy to give it. We have a wide network of people, Zoom connections and all that, and we'll be very, very happy and privileged to team up with you to get this film shown. Immediately, I can recommend that my dear friend filmmaker Anand Patwardhan, who runs a kind of alternate filming thing every week through Vikalp, I can recommend to him that he shows this at a private screening very soon. We'll be in touch on that. Just a few quick pointers, because I want to thank my friend and colleague Ram for bearing with me and letting me speak first, because I was unfortunately, Ram told about this a little late in the day and I have another engagement. Just a few quick pointers to add to the narrative that has come through so powerfully in the film. One is that what we've seen in India over the past 2.5 decades really, and particularly post 2002 in Gujarat, is not simply the whitewashing of mass crimes as they took place and with the man at the top, but the role of the corporate sector. The role of the corporate sector was very, very critical post 2007-8 in this whitewash. So your vibrant Gujarat summits, slightly less glamorous events than, say, the Namaste Trump one, but nevertheless very critical because money was used. We don't know where that money came from. APCO Worldwide was hired for this kind of whitewashing of a man who had been called a person who had conspired to mass murder to be the pink cherubic future prime minister of the country. So I think we need to remember the role of the corporate sector, not just the Ambanis, but the Tatas, the Mittals, the Adanis. Adani has grown along with Modi himself. Ambanis have grown with the BJP rule in Gujarat. So these are kind of connections that we need to understand and make. Thirdly, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and the outfit that is really the brain behind the current government, the Prime Minister and many of the central ministers are actually pracharaks in this regime, actually thrives on a climate of fear. The fear and intimidation factor is very, very critical to the survival of such proto-fascist forces. And we've seen this right up to the ideological linkages with Mussolini and Hitler, Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany, which can be seen in the works, in their own ideological works, whether it is We or Our Nation or Defined or any other works of the RSS. One very powerful bit in the film, which I would just add one further line about, is this new phenomenon we are seeing in India particularly, which is journalism as genocide. And I'm mentioning this with due responsibility. We saw those horrendous clips in the film of how television channels had been mustering and whipping up hatred against the ordinary working Muslim in the garb of targeting the Tablighi Jamaat. But what was missing for me was that one shot of Rahul Kanwal and India Today. Because for me, the India Today show was the most damaging of all, because it's a respectable channel. It's a channel that has Rajdeep Sardesai as its icon, you know. So I think when those respectable channels lead the charge, then it's really journalism as genocide. Because that means that you have, it's not just the fringe, which is Z, which is India TV, which is Adnav, which is Times Now. You know, we are seeing how they're targeting Vijay Chakravarti today, you know, in a shockingly shameless fashion. But the role of India Today, and you had Rahul Kanwal particularly in a vicious, vicious role when it came to this, which needs to be marked. What has also been marked in India post 2014 is that we've seen a culture of complete silence at the top. I mean, silence when such targeted crimes are taking place. We've seen silence from the top, whether it's the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, etc. And we know that silence means complicity. It was very rightly said by Laila Ji at the beginning when she spoke, and also in the film, that the COVID has turned a mirror into the already existing schisms in our society. True. But what the COVID-19 pandemic has also done is that it has legitimized hate in a way that never before. So, for instance, apart from the Tablighi Jamaat issue, you have something like Sudarshan TV, and that the chief editor, Suresh Chavkani, actually now seeing that any Muslim civil servant is a danger because he represents jihad. He represents that pernicious notion of jihad. And they were going to telecast a show yesterday till the Delhi High Court came in. So I'm thankful in that sense to the Aurangabad bench of the Bombay High Court and the Delhi High Court, which in the face of the inaction from the Supreme Court, at least are showing a mirror to the face of this kind of targeting by quashing the FIRs against the hapless Tablighi Jamaat. Finally, I'm so glad that the migrant laborer issue was also flagged, because it's absolutely shocking what we've done to our own people. Out of a population of 134 crores, arguably 63 crores might be migrant labor. And even among this section, there are intersectionalities. You'll have Dalits, you'll have Adivasis, you'll have about 35 to 40% who are Muslims. You have over 50% who are women migrant workers. So you're seeing the most discriminated also in the intersectionalities. And there's no debate at all. There's no debate at all in India today. I mean, all of us were forced into visibly noticing the migrant workers when they, showing a complete distrust and lack of faith in the government, took to the streets. They walked 1,700 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers, 1,300 kilometers, because no transport was made available to them. There could not be a greater shame and sign that a large section of your own people have lost faith in the word that you represent. They had lost faith in the government. In fact, the Indian Railways figure shows that in the month of May, in the Shramik trains, 10 million people traveled. These were all migrant workers, and they were paying for it from their own pockets. I'm not talking about the 4,000 and 7,000 rupees they paid to illegal lorries and truck drivers climbing themselves, sleeping one on top of each other in layers. It was a national shame. And to actually believe that the elite in this country, and I mentioned the judiciary, the entire elite has actually forgotten this episode as if it never happened. The elite in this country, including the top court of this land, does not hammer on at the government to ask that what has happened to these people who've gone back? Where are they? How are they living? Are they getting access to the quote unquote government schemes? And instead of any such hard questioning by the judiciary, which is, our constitution tells us that we have 3 pillars in a democracy, which means the judiciary needs to be interrogating the government. The 4th pillar, the media, needs to be interrogating the government. Instead of that interrogation, you're seeing supplicants. You're seeing complete supplicants. And there could be no worse symbol for me than what happened in this country on 5th August, 2020. That in the face of what this country is facing, 100 million people are likely to be pushed below the poverty line. Middle class are fearing loss of jobs. And what does the government do? It makes a spectacle of laying the slabs of the Ram temple at Ayodhya. What was the SPG cost? What was the security cost? I mean, these questions are not being asked by the media because there's a sense of fear and intimidation among the better people, and supplicancy and complete a kind of journalism by genocide in the other. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak today. I admire all of you for putting together this film. It's a film that needs to be watched and it needs to be shown to young people. I'm glad to see so many young people in the film as well. Good luck, and let's hope that we can all struggle for a better India and a better world. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Tista. That was indeed very inspiring and thought-provoking. Just quickly before you leave, Manisha has a question for you.
Sure.
Do you mind if you could?
No, not at all. I can take some
thanks.
questions.
Yeah, Manisha. We can't hear you, Manisha.
I can't hear Manisha. Manisha ji, I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, I've asked you to unmute, Manisha. Okay, all good, thanks.
Tista ji, thank you so much for this powerful message. There are a number of questions that have come, but I will kind of, just because we're running short of time with you, so I'll just put one of the most important ones that has come, is that with the disastrous handling of pandemic and owing to the opportunity to demonize Muslims, also owing to the Bombay High Court judgment on scapegoating of the Tabligis and the irreversible damage that the scapegoating has caused, how do you think is the future of Indian judiciary and media institution?
It's a very it's out there for all of us to see. It's a very difficult question. All I can say is that the outspoken amongst us, the brave amongst us, when I talk about journalists, and the brave among judges, are still doing their job. It's mainly in the high courts. You see some judgments coming out of the Karnataka High Court, some coming out of the Bombay High Court, Aurangabad bench, some flickering of that. I did not even get a chance to speak about Uttar Pradesh because the situation there is horrendous. I mean, apart from the senior activists like Dara Puri ji and Sadaf Jafar and others who have been badly humiliated and tortured because they were part of the anti-CA, you have 22 people who are poor working class Muslims who have had to pay lakhs of rupees for bail, who have lost their livelihoods. I mean, so the Uttar Pradesh is another story itself. In fact, it's horrendous. I don't know what the future is, but I only believe that if this country has to survive as a democracy and not break up in several parts, then the people in the judiciary who may still believe in constitutional morality better speak up. and the journalists better become bolder and speak up as well. I mean, the print media is still better. I'd like to say all this because I've given a lot of harsh words for the electronic and television media. I feel the newspapers are still better. You have alternate internet portals, but you know how many people read those? Eventually, in Rampur and Ghaziabad and Noida and Badoi, when this entire episode happened, you had Muslim thelawalas being spit at by local villagers because they said, we will not buy from you. So he's not only being humiliated. We saw the picture of Danish at the beginning of the film. You know, the young man, Danish from Himachal Pradesh, who committed suicide. And he said, I've not done anything wrong. I mean, really not done anything wrong. So, I mean, you've seen precious lives being lost, not out of the disease, as has been said at the end of the film, but simply because of this venomous targeting. And I don't know. I don't have an answer to it, but we can only hope, because if we don't hope, then we will not fight. I can take a couple of more questions if you want. If you have the time, I don't know. I can't hear you though, Manish.
Does that work, Manisha? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So maybe I'll ask another two questions from Tista. Okay, Tista, I have a question from the executive producer of the film, and he would really like to get a film review from you, which is of course not a question, but would you be happy to provide a film review in an email or a message so that we can use it in our promotions?
Absolutely. But if you could just give me a couple of days, I mean, I could do it by Monday or Tuesday because I'm a little strapped for time. But if you tell me the word length and all, I'd be very happy to do it.
Sure. Okay, so there's one question from an audience side is, how can we help? So these remember, these audience are living abroad or from India, and the question is from us: how can we help? Why can't they make COVID treatment free for everyone in India, or at least ensure that the hospitals do not take advantage of this pandemic? They are selling the medicines costlier than ever before. Is there something being done at the local level? Is there something that we can help to ensure that there is fairness in dissemination of treatment?
No, actually, I must say this, that though, I mean, the collapse, like even in the United States, the collapse of the health system has meant that even in India, the collapse of the health system in cities like Bombay, Delhi, etc., has meant that the persons who have less access to resources and health have suffered the worst and the most. I would not say that the authorities are doing nothing at all. I mean, I must say that. I think to believe that, say, the Bombay Municipal Corporation or the Delhi authorities are doing nothing at all, I think would be an exaggeration. There have been, I mean, and I think our frontline COVID warriors, as we call them, whether it's the nurses, whether it's the doctors, whether it's the sanitation workers and safai karmacharis, have been doing a very, very good job, or even our policemen. It's just that I think what you can do sitting out there is to be constantly rational, push buttons, to authorities, write letters, make statements, write to governments, but base it on authentic information, not an exaggerated information. And if there's a good word to say, put the good word in as well, because I think that always helps. Because for us, those of us fighting from here, I mean, it always helps if there's a balanced view coming from there. But I think a view coming from there is important, because I don't think it should only be the right-wing supremacist view coming from the NRIs. Like you yourself said when we spoke, that there is another India out there, an India that believes in Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Maulana Azad, Gandhi and Nehru's constitution. And that India also needs to be heard. Whereas all that we are hearing about is either Howdy Modi or Namaste Trump. And I know and believe that there are many other Indians out there. Many are good friends, but they need to get organized, they need to get vocal. Or more vocal. I'm not saying they're not organized or vocal, but more organized and more vocal. But I think pressure points, to answer the question on health, pressure points is important. Writing letters to authorities, making those statements public, talking to international bodies about these things. I think all these things help, but with complete authentic information.
Right. So there's another question, I think, and that should be the last one for you, Tistaji, is that there's somebody who has asked, we are aware of such hate campaigns organized both by government, and this is a message coming from somebody, so these are not my words, organized both by government and their subordinate media platforms. But is there any judicial procedure that
Yeah,
can be made against them, and
yeah,
so that they can be penalized for that action, or at
yeah.
least action can be stopped?
It's a very good question. In fact, I didn't want to take up my time talking about my organization, but I just wanted to share this bit that my organization, CJP, Citizens for Justice and Peace, you can visit our website, cjp.org.in. If you provide me with your mailing list, I'll happy to send our regular dispatches to your audience, is that we are constantly complaining to statutory bodies on hate. Okay. And we are doing this through criminal complaints and through the complaints to the National Broadcasting Statutory Authority. So for instance, cjp.org.in. Okay, that's the only thing you need to add. Now, what I mean is that for television, you have a body called the NBSA, which is the National Broadcasting Statutory Authority. So far, CJP has filed about 36 complaints before NBSA, and 9 of them were during the pandemic. Okay, including the one against Kanwal, I said, and many others. And we've received a positive response, but because of the hearings getting postponed, we should be hearing them soon. There are other campaigns in the country which are also complaining. Like there's a group in Bangalore which is complaining against the Kannada media and hate. And we keep trying to build alliances because no one organization can do everything, you know. So there are, apart from filing a FIR and do a criminal case, which is a little more difficult, I think the first step is to file it before this. And we managed 3 successes before on Z News last year, Aaj Tak, when they did a very, very communal tweet during just before the Babri Masjid judgment was due, and they had to pull it off. So we got orders from the NBSA that they had to pull off those videos and pull off those tweets. So those are baby step victories, but at least you have to, you get there eventually, you know, slowly you get there. And I think more importantly than going to the authorities is by complaining, if you build up a community of people who is not scared to complain, which is why my organization is trying to develop an app called Hate Hatao Desh Bachao, you know, and that app is in its completion stage. We've been sort of hedged in because of lack of resources and all that. But if we have this Hate Hatao app, what we mean is that every person should feel that they can send us a complaint, either in their name or anonymously, and then we will take it up, you know. So the point is, and that doesn't mean CJP becomes the be all and end all. The individual person feels that he or she is not scared to actually talk about something which is constitutional and which is lawful and begins to complain. And you can, like yesterday, young people in Bangalore managed to lodge a complaint against Sudarshan TV because I just gave them a format of the complaint. I said, just do it and sit on the head. And Karnataka is ruled by the BJP, but I think we have to keep trying wherever we can, because maybe that complaint will fizzle out, but you can't give up for lack of trying, because the unfortunate part in India is that the process of law is so long drawn out, so difficult. But what we need to do is create a community of peace volunteers who want to struggle peacefully to defend the constitution from the streets right up into the courts, you know. And we are doing amazing work in, when the NRC-CA crisis broke out, the reason why CJP was called everywhere is because we've been working in Assam for the last 3.5 years. And we've actually helped 10 lakh people fill up the NRC forms. So we have, so we've got about maybe 25 volunteers who are formally associated with us, but we've got 500 people who are community volunteers who are being trained by our volunteers. So I think, you know, you have to create this ripple effect, because the problem is we need to communicate that this is a problem that the community, I don't mean the religious community, I mean the constitutional community, where Hindus, Muslims, everybody who believes in the survival of India, like you said, that the India we want is the India of our dreams, the India that was founded, that despite partition, that's what I keep telling young people, that despite partition, our founding mothers and fathers chose to keep this a secular republic, you know, and that was an amazingly principled and pragmatic decision, because without keeping it together, without the dream of parity and non-discrimination, even if it's not a reality, you can't stay one. And what we fear is that by this politics carrying on like this, you're actually feeding the forces of dissension, you know. I can't hear you, Manisha. Yeah.
So no, thank you so much for this one. And I think I will contact you. I think it's important for us to talk about this app you are developing, Hate Hatao Desh Bachao, because internally in the India organization, we have been thinking of creating a similar app where people, common people, can actually complain.
Yeah, please let's collaborate on that.
So
Please,
let's
do it.
collaborate on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
And I want to personally again thank Ram for his patience. Thank you very much. We are so often on platforms together. Thank you, Ram, for your kindness and letting me speak first. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Teesta ji.
Thank you very much, Teesta.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Without further ado, we'll have Ramji on the screen with us. I'm asking you to unmute, Ramji. Just okay.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so tell me, how do we go about it? First, I give my comments and then question answers.
I think we go around with like say around 7 to 10 minutes. Is that good enough, Manisha?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so your initial comments on the film would be very helpful, especially since the director is with us and the other executive.
Okay.
Sure,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me for this. I must say I have been watching so many films on the communal issue in India, and this film stands out very tall amongst most of the films which have been made on the issue of communalism. Apart from, of course, technical qualities and deeper research and a presentation which sounds very balanced, because that is very important here, because people generally try to label the things very biased or this, that, and the other. So that is one. Of course, I am overwhelmed by watching this film, and surely, as Kika suggested in India, we can. This film needs to be watched by many people, because as she was also saying, she has said many things, which some of them I will like to reinforce. That, see, this type of a propaganda, the biggest thing you note that a major section of television media was bought over by the corporate sector, and this happened after 2002. How it happened? After 2002, this person was the chief minister of Gujarat, and he started promoting the corporate sector. And after that, they went buying the major television centers left, right, and center. Number one. Number two, this party in power, it was the first one to start a media cell. Media cell means where you distort the news and where you try to present the news in your own perspective. And they had a special department to create WhatsApp groups. If I'm right, they created nearly 2 lakh WhatsApp groups in a single state of Uttar Pradesh. And through this, initially, they also employed some people. So basically, what I'm saying that today's social thinking, if I'm to use this word, a broad social thinking is totally right wing. This sounds very pessimistic, but it has happened. It has happened, and their focus has been on projection of the image of that person who's our prime minister, plus demonizing mainly Muslims and partly Christians also. Don't be under illusion that only Muslims are the persecuted ones. Christians are also joining, have been roped in, and a lot of anti-Christian violence at a different level is also going on. But in the backdrop, I must say, as the film points out, is a culmination of a long process. What is happening in India is not a overnight process. Believe me, you, from 1980s, when the Ram Temple campaign started, the hatred against Muslims picked up, and there was a special effort to set up their centers in the Adivasi tribal areas where Christian missionaries were doing the work in the area of education and health. So these two processes started. One was Ram Temple. Through Ram Temple campaign, what they communicated was a Muslim king had destroyed the temple of our Lord. Number one. So means that Muslim king is synonymous with today's Muslims. So see the first connection. What has today's Muslims to do with that particular Muslim king anytime? Number one. Number two, and according to my study, this was mostly a concocted thing which came to be there. So this hatred is not created today. Actually, this hatred which is today sits on the top of a big pyramid of hatred. It is a big pyramid of hatred which has been constructed against Muslims, and that process, of course, is a century long. The organization which was pioneer in this, if you can get the hint, is going to complete 100 years soon, and it is just slightly before that, around that a communal view of history, which was introduced by the colonial rulers, was picked up by colonial powers, Muslim League on one side, Hindu Mahasabha and RSS on the other. Here, the king is supposed to be the representative of the religion. King is supposed to be ruling for the religion, and that is a basic flaw. So then comes the selective historiography. One example I like to give how Muslims have been demonized through this whole Ram temple campaign. Babar is demonized for destroying a Ram temple, and it is a mythological story into which I don't want to go. But it was generalized. And one example I'll give, for example, that of Aurangzeb, that he destroyed Kashi Vishwanath temple. Believe me, this Kashi Vishwanath temple is going to be next on their agenda, and then Mathura is going to be further on. So same Aurangzeb who destroys Kashi Vishwanath temple for reasons which are very different, he gives donation to hundreds of temples in the North India. So people know that temple destruction was done by a Muslim king called Aurangzeb, but he gave donations to hundreds of temples that is not registered. Anyway, so this hatred manufacture, which began during colonial period, picked up from 1980s, and it is only because of that then when these channels were corporatized, and rather than doing the duty of a monitor on the policies of the government, they started attacking the opposition, which tries to criticize the government. So the whole media role has been standing on its head. Its basic responsibility of criticizing the wrong policies of the government substituted by anybody who is opposing the government. So in that particular way, our social activists, eminent social activists, students who criticize the government started being labeled as anti-national. Now, so here the state is synonymous with a ruling party, and the nation is synonymous with that ruling party. That equation came up, and that's where this COVID-19 came, and people, it came on the top of a lot of other hatred which had been spread. So this gel, and I tell you, believe me, as Tisa was pointing out, ordinary person on the street started believing if that is a Muslim, be careful of that particular person. You may catch COVID. I can talk of my close relatives and others who started avoiding the Muslim fruit sellers, vegetable vendors, and others, etc., etc. But see, simple logic of journalism is that when you're doing a story, at least see the background. Now, in the background, if you see, this big gathering is taking place of a Tablighi Jamaat, but bigger gathering had taken place in Namaste Trump event, where nearly 2 lakh people had come in contact. And before this Tablighi Jamaat event took place, there was one Sikh Granthi who had returned from Europe. There was one famous singer, Kanika Kapoor, who had returned from abroad, and she mingled with thousands and thousands of people. Third thing you see, as Tablighi Jamaat event was going on, much later, the public gatherings in big numbers kept taking place in big temples, mutts, Sabrimala temple, and our Bombay Siddhivinayak temple, Balaji temple. So huge congregations were going on. So actually, government was warned adequately by WHO and even by people, by a person whom people don't take seriously, but he's speaking one of the best voices. Rahul Gandhi tweeted on 12th February that corona pandemic is going to take a serious shape. And on 13th of March, one Love Agarwal of the ministry says that corona is not the real threat to India. So in this context, very elementary ethics of journalism say that you try to see the other side, but that was not done. And as Tista has very correctly pointed out, this was done in a very loud manner, regularly, repeatedly, which this film has brought out very nicely. I am very happy about it that something is there which we can show to the people as to how COVID epidemic was used as an opportunity. See, it was used as an opportunity rather than coming forward to combat it. It was used as an opportunity for a political agenda. And what is a political agenda? Hindu nationalism. And what is the Hindu nationalism stands not for Hinduism. Please don't misunderstand. Just to summarize it, I can say for Hinduism, I see Gandhi. For Hindu nationalism, I see Godse. So let's be very clear. This Hindu nationalism is nothing to do with the Hinduism of Gandhi at all. So rather than taking the serious steps like Kerala government did, please note, in India itself, there is a state which did marvelous job in restraining and controlling this COVID-19 epidemic, and it has the lowest death rate in the whole of the country. While other states, where the central government had a bigger say, it was totally mismanaged. A lot of migrant workers, women, men. How many have died? I don't know whether there is a proper record of this or not. But friends, in the context of this film, we need to think that this politics in the name of religion in India is becoming stronger and stronger. People like us are keeping our optimism that, well, one day we can combat this divisive agenda, this hatred, and try to bring back strength to the values of Indian constitution and try to promote a narrative which begins with Sufi tradition, Bhakti tradition, Gandhi's national movement, Maulana Azad's contribution to unity of India. We hope, but more we go further, we see that more and more roads are getting blocked. So this film, I think, should be seen as a starting point or whatever point for us to introspect deeper as to how in a country such a type of journalism can flourish. I think we have to go to the next level. This journalism has come up and the government is supporting it, but what is lying at the bottom? How such journalism can survive, and how such a hatred can be created against the Muslim community? And of course, I will say that in India's freedom movement, the contribution of all religious communities was matching, equal, and powerful. It is, of course, a few elite who wanted a separate nation, partition, etc., etc. But for that, to blame the Muslim community as a whole is totally wrong, and it has nothing to do with the reality of our country. So that this narrative, which is a real narrative of our country, my country, is that here people of different religions lived in celebration with each other. It was not tolerance. Please note, I don't accept the word tolerance. It was celebration between different communities, which created our common cultural heritage in language, music, art, architecture, religious traditions, food, and what you have. And instead of that, the narrative which is currently prevailing is that of exclusion, and that too also, I believe, understand that in Hinduism also there are great traditions which Mahatma Gandhi followed, but this tradition which is being imposed is that a tradition of uh, caste based hierarchy. Now this is a central point. I have understood that this has nothing to do with religion. It wants to reimpose with vigor the caste based and gender based hierarchy on Indian society. So friends, I believe that this film is a very strong uh, point for us to introspect. It is not just a question of COVID. COVID is very dangerous. But behind that, how such political tendencies have come up, which have intensified the widening gulf between religious communities at the social level. So that's where I will think I will throw it open for questions. And I will request you to think that the deeper question of difference between religion as faith, religion as morality, and religion being used for politics, that difference we have always to be clear. And what is being paraded as religion has nothing to do with faith or morality. It is purely identitarian politics which wants to bring in, bring back uh, values which are totally opposed to liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ram sir. It was very insightful, it was in fact a very constructive and elaborate feedback in regards to the movie and all the research and everything that's gone into the movie. So thank you very much for your time once again. And now we'll open this for questions and answers. And Manisha, I'm going to ask you to unmute again. Does that work for you?
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah, okay. And I'll unmute Dakshin as well. Dakshin, I'm asking you to unmute as well.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
did.
cool. So now we've got Ramji, Manisha, and Dakshin. So yeah, we're all open to Q&As now. Over to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. So I will straight away jump into questions. Sista has already answered some of the questions. I will take up, the first question is directed to Dakshin. There are questions for Ramji, there are questions for Leila, Dr. Leila Kariwal, and there are questions for India organization, which I will take up. So the first question for Dakshin is, Dakshin, can you please describe in a few words your journey on the project and the initiative?
I think this is a very unique film actually for me because I mean I say to my friend this, I made a desktop-based film. I mean, I never made such kind of film that without shooting, going outside, depend on the secondary data and using online interviews. I think this was very different experience. But when this was going on and during the first lockdown, uh, when Tablighi Jamaat was blaming by this politician and by idiot media people, and they were shouting on the TV sets, I think, you naturally, if you're a normal human being, you become so angry that why this has happened, because this is, scientifically, medically, this is not possible that some bunch of people can actually infect entire country. So that was totally, I mean, agenda by the media people and by the politicians. And I wanted to tell this story. So I really thanks to Shutterfruit Production and India Group that, they made this film, and I wanted, whatever I wanted to say through this film, I would able to do that.
Thank you, Dakshin. And the next question is to Dr. Leila Kariwal. Cheryl, can you please unmute Dr. Kariwal? Okay, she is unmuted. Okay, so the question to you, Dr. Kariwal, is what are the ideas underpinning the film?
Thank you, Manisha. Please call me by my first name. Just first name would be great, given all the caste hierarchies that Ramji just mentioned are very visible through the second names and the names themselves. What ideas underpin the documentary? Very central idea that underpins this documentary is that when they're crisis vultures. I don't say it very explicitly in the film itself or in the, but there are people who benefit from crisis. They capitalize on crisis. They use it to advance their own political, social, cultural projects, and this is what exactly we see. The underpinning idea that, just to extension of this, is that authoritarian regimes in particular, if you look at historical examples, global contemporary examples, authoritarian regimes invariably use crisis to deflect, to find a scapegoat. Why do they find scapegoat? Because there is a possibility that during the crisis, frustrated people who are deeply affected, their anger may channelize upward. So there is this elite anxiety that the crisis will destabilize their power. So the people's frustration will go upward. So what do? They try to redirect people's frustration downwards towards those people who are vulnerable. Why? Because they cannot retaliate with the same strength that these rigid regimes have. Do you see elite minorities being scapegoated? No, these are invariably vulnerable minorities. So this is the message, central message, that I felt very strongly that the research should communicate, and Dakshin has done absolutely fabulous job to present that. So those case studies to see the global pattern, historical pattern, the idea was this, that this is a trend. It's not unique to India.
Thank you, Leila. Okay, so in connection with the same two questions, there's one question for the filmmaker, is what is the main purpose of making this film? And I'm happy to respond to that, is that for us, the main purpose of making this film was to bring about awareness and raise international pressure to ensure that the Indian government does it right for its minorities. Indian government stops and prevents oppression of minorities, especially during pandemics. That's the most important objective. The second objective we thought is that uh, making this film should be like a record. It should record this what has happened historically in the past, and when today becomes the history, so that our young people can take learnings from there. And number three is that by making this film, the government, members of the government organizations, um, are able to recognize the fact that when they are preparing for pandemics, they are not just only preparing for medical emergencies, medical treatments, vaccines, but they also have a duty towards the minorities, and especially the vulnerable minorities, and that they will need protection from them. So preparing for pandemics is supposed to become a very dynamic and very holistic preparation, which should include the ensuring that keeping the minorities' interest should be at the forefront of the government's preparation. The other question that was associated with this was that why is it a private screening? Well, this is a private screening because we want this film to go to masses, to a lot of people world over, which means we will be approaching television channels, we will be approaching platforms such as Netflix and Amazon. And if we allow this to be a public viewing, then we reduce our chances of being accepted by these television channels. I will move to the next question, which is associated with this, is that how are you going to spread this word? What are the target audience, and what are you going to achieve from this? And so, of course, as I mentioned, that we are going to spread the word by reaching out to these media houses so that they can telecast our film. If any of you are in touch, have any contacts with media houses, then please do us a favor, get us in touch with them. Our target audience is mainly the non-Indian policy makers, people of influence, because the people of influence, which is also the general public, because when the general public increases the pressure, it enables the people and in higher positions to speak out as well. So these are our target audience all around the world. And we're going to do everything possible to achieve that with your help. We are already in touch with a few channels, and we will be really, really happy to hold private screenings for any organizations that you all may be associated with. And my next question is for Ramji. This is a question that has come from the audience. Ramji, the question is, with disastrous handling of pandemic and using the opportunity to demonize Muslims, should we not just dispel the false narrative that Muslims are spreading COVID-19, but also inform people how Hindus, for which this government is said to be working, are deeply affected? Let people know how horribly Hindus of all classes and castes have been affected due to poor governance. So they are asking, do you think this should also be an approach?
See, that's a very important question, because the policies of this government, though they overtly target the Muslims and partly Christians. But if you see, the overall people have now started talking at this language also. That overall, what are the Hindus going to get out of all these exercises which are happening now? Because the shoe is pinching the foot in the very bad manner, because price rise and all these people. I was talking to one of my friends that all these migrants who have walked miles and miles, the ulcers in their feet will remind them at, in the future as to what this government has given up, irrespective of the religion. And so actually the biggest victims, if you see number wise, biggest victims of all these policies are the Hindus. So
Hindus.
apart from the migrant workers, overall, if you see joblessness, then farmer suicide, rising prices, and here Hindus are equally big victim. So in many of the writings, like even as this also pointed out in this describing of COVID, this the mention of migrant workers, rising prices, and the total mishandling is very much you can demonstrate. Plus, also you can also demonstrate that there can be different type of handling also, the way it was done in Kerala. Like here in the North Indian states, people died of starvation and this, and in Kerala they opened 1,000 eateries which were totally free, and they distributed ration because in Indian godowns ration is rotting. But in Kerala, they opened the godowns and they tried to see that all the families are well covered. They paid the pension, 2 months pension in advance, 1 month salary in advance, and all those who were destitute, care was taken care. So if we bring in this contrast that people can be taken care of, like in Kerala, people don't have to suffer the way Hindus and Muslims both suffered in various parts of the country. That point I think many of us are trying to highlight, but our reach is very small. I tell you, the biggest problem we have got is not that we have good activists like Tista and other friends. Our real problem is the reach which we should have. And that's why I saw a comment about peace workers, peace volunteers. Our main focus is that to now training is a wrong word, to make peace volunteers out of youth, boys and girls who are a bit sincere about society, to give them the whole perspective, whatever we have learned, to share with them so that they can go to the community, to the society with better understanding, to quell their misunderstandings about history. I must tell you, I keep coming back to medieval history only because I know the root of all this hatred has been sown by misusing medieval history, right? Other things are add-ons. So if we can raise a force of volunteers which understand these things and try to take it to community, because see, film will make a very strong impact. I am very sure of that. I congratulate Dakshin for that, but I must and also Laila for that. But I must tell you, unless this is a total package, this will come like a wave which hits you, which affects you, and it subsides. We have to maintain a sustained work, backed up by this film, backed up by supplementary reading material on the net, good websites like Tista was telling us. Her newsletter comes daily, material on Wire, which I think some of us may be accessing, Scroll, and some of the YouTube videos, which, sorry to be talking about myself, which we have created. So if we can make this accessible to young volunteers, they can definitely can become good community workers, because they will understand the value of Indianness and a narrative which made India India. Because the narrative which made India was the Gandhi's narrative, who looked at the things in a very different way. And he did take off from the tradition of the saints, of Islam, Hinduism, and even from Christian values. He picked up a lot of things. So it's not that he was exclusive. Only because he was exclusive, India could become India. That's my understanding. And this is what we have to train to the young volunteers. Sorry to be using a wrong word of training, but somehow we have to share this in depth, so that when these films come, they don't pass off like a wave. They make a deeper transformation to the people in going to a deeper level, so that they can contribute to the social understanding in a much lasting and better way, and which can disseminate in a very strong way.
Thank you, Ramji.
Yeah.
Ramji, there are another question. In fact,
Pleasure.
there are two questions from two different people, but
Yeah.
I'd like to slot them together for you to answer.
Please.
The first question is from Fatima from the audience, and she says, "I think it was Veer Savarkar's thoughts in making India a Hindu nation. If that is true, and could that need be highlighted? Number one, and then there's a slightly related question from somebody else and says, what should the Muslim community do? Should that be true, and should that be endorsed by the majority, the people that believe in the majority religion in India?
Yeah. See, I think first we have to understand Savarkar's statement is true, but I like to try to explain it. See, as Indian nationalism was rising around Indian National Congress, Dadabhai Nauroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, and G.R.D. Tata, etc., etc. As Indian nationalism was growing, the old Nawabs and Rajas, they clubbed together. They initially came together, and it is from this that on one side came Muslim League, other side came Hindu Mahasabha. Initially, they were Rajas, Nawabs, Zamindars, Jagirdars. Later on, some middle class elements, some elite like Jinnah, Savarkar came and gave leadership to this. So, actually, it is right to say that both these communal narratives, they came up in opposition to the narrative of India as a nation in the meeting, number one. Number two, articulation that there are two nations in this country, one is a Hindu nation and another is a Muslim nation. This was definitely put forward in the literal sense first by Savarkar. In 1940, Jinnah took it further by saying that we Muslims should have a separate nation. That's a long story, but this point is elaborated by many of our colleagues very strongly with fully documented proof. But question is again, the reach is not there. Two of my friends have brought out brilliant books on Muslim freedom fighters in India. And one of them has also written a book, Indian Muslims Against Partition, right? So these are very valuable resources with us, which we are not able to reach to the broader level. So because the reach of, superficial understanding, Hindu versus Muslim, and etc., etc., I must say that these are the understandings which are there in society. So this organization, communal organization, has worked very hard. That is another point. Let's know. We cannot wish them away. They have been working for 95 years, 30 days a month, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They have been working and they have been indoctrinating young boys. Women come later. They are subordinate organization. So they have been indoctrinating it, and through molecular permeation, and then through later on through education, educational books, saffronization of education, and infiltration in media, and now so they have made their dent very high. So to put forward the correct understanding that there are so many Muslim freedom fighters, majority of Muslims were not following Muslim League till 1940. Majority of Muslims were following Indian National Congress. Majority of ulema and others, they were against partition. Right. So these are all the things which people have brought out last 20 years. Many of my close friends have done this work, and one has created a beautiful exhibition also of Muslim freedom fighters. But again, I must tell you, a country of 130 crore people, our reach is limited. Narrative we have got. With some confidence, I can say that some of us, our good friends, have contributed to digging out, burning the midnight oil, and creating a proper narrative is very much there. Question is the lack of the volunteers who can take it further to the community here, there, and everywhere. That's where we are missing. So Hindu community, when we explain to them this perspective of Indian nationalism, contributed by all religions, contributed by the rising values of liberty, equality, fraternity, versus the communal narrative of Hindu versus Muslim, people do understand this. But question is, the number of volunteers we have is awfully very minimal. Do you believe that this communal organization, big communal organizations, had over lakhs of seriously committed full-time volunteers spreading their narrative day in and day out. And how many of us here we are able to do it? That I think is the question. Unless we tell it to people, because there is a sentence called ruling ideas are the ideas of the ruling ideas of the dominant organization. I'm just modifying a famous sentence. Ruling ideas are the ideas of the dominant organization. I hope you get the original quote, and that is a challenge I'm giving to all of you. Try to find it out. Ruling ideas are the ideas of the ruling class. Here I'm modifying it to ruling ideas are the ideas of the dominant organization, which is working for it day in and day out. So convincing Hindu, Muslim, Christian is no issue. Question is, do we have that particular willpower, manpower, man and woman power also, woman power, which can take it further to the society and tell the real story of a Muslim cook who saved the life of Mahatma Gandhi. I don't know how many of us know, but the British tried to poison Mahatma Gandhi through his cook. He ultimately gave up. He said, "No, I will not do it." This is, and I'm just giving one example. There's so many of such lovely examples of harmony, love, and affection between different communities. Question is, how do we spread it? We need to develop a bigger mechanism, and this film probably can give us a good pretext to think at immediate level and think at long-term level. Because immediate level we can do, and which is must, which is a compulsory thing. But we have also to think in long term, how do we reach ideas to all people in the society?
Ramji, thank you very much.
Yeah.
On the point of reach, I just want to quickly introduce you to our another project that we are working on, which is an animation series of 2 to 3 minutes, maximum 5 minutes. It's going to be in Hindi to begin with, and the objective of it is to ensure that it reaches the WhatsApp circulation in
Yeah.
India.
Yeah.
And we thought that if hatred can be spread across India through WhatsApp, we can spread harmony and goodwill and good message through that.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
that we are working, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you about that in future.
I'll like to
Uh,
learn
yes,
about that. I like to learn
thank
about
you. I have two last questions because I am very conscious that we have already run out of time. But there are two last questions which
No
I
problem.
think are very important. Um, the one question is for to Dakshin from the audience. Dakshin, the question is, why did you not include Bombay High Court decision of clearing Tablighi Jamaat of all blame in spreading COVID-19? There is a Bombay High Court decision that has cleared Tablighi Jamaat. So why did you not include this in the film?
Oh, we already finished the film actually very long back. I mean, almost 1 month back, and I think the judgment actually came recently, maybe
4 days
around
ago.
10 15
Judgment
days.
came
Yeah,
4 or 5 days ago.
yeah, and we already finished the film actually before that, because once the film is finished, then, and if you want to change anything, then you need to go for re-edit. I mean, there are a lot of other technical things are
Yes.
involved, so that is why we could not include it.
Yeah, and if I may add to your answer, Dakshin, is that what came from the High Court, the Supreme Court, was too late, because the minorities were already oppressed and scapegoated. A lot of people already suffered, and suffered for months and months and months. So the message of the film was not going to get any diluted or any changed, or the objective of making the film had not changed just because Supreme Court has had come up with clearing out of the of from the Tablighi Jamaat. The point is that the majority of the Indian population was already ingrained with this thought that the Muslims or were causing the pandemic or the infection. And even though the Supreme Court have cleared them of that, perception was already ingrained and it was done and dusted. So anyways, the objective of the film still remained the same, and we have to uphold that. And I think probably one of the things we could do is probably add in a card every time we screen a film that later on the Tablighi Jamatis were cleared. But still, it just still holds the heart of the film, the whole objective.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing that, see, judgment came actually recently, as Purani Saab said that 4 days back. Uh, the politicians or whatever the entire machinery was behind the Tablighi Jamaat, whatever they wanted to create, they already created in the people's memory, the public memory. And, still if you talk, I mean, even after judgment, if you talk any layman actually in India, that ये किसकी वजह से, who are, किसकी वजह से ये कोरोना वायरस जो है, it was spread actually in India. So the first name will come actually Tablighi Jamaat. So whatever they wanted to wanted to create a narrative, they already did that. Of course, our film also, we made timely, but we also trying to translate the film, maybe dub into Hindi or some regional languages. I mean, we are working on that. So this film, I mean, it is in English, but in the regional or national language, this film can reach to the common man, because Punani Sahib is saying, continuously saying the reach, because we are lacking into the reach. We have a lot of material, we have a lot of things to say, but we are really lacking into the reach. So I think if this film will translate into Hindi, Gujarati, or Tamil, or any regional languages, I'm sure the reach of the film will increase, and whatever the narrative was created, propagandist narrative was created, the counter narrative will actually come up and people can understand the reality.
Can I add a sentence to that?
Yeah.
See, when it was propagated that Tablighis have spread corona, that news was that debates were heavy. And when the judgment came, there's hardly any noise on the TV.
No, yeah, you're right.
There's
You're
hardly
right.
any noise on the TV. There is no special discussion that High Court has come with this judgment. Previously, we had talked about it, but see, Judge Court is saying this right or wrong. It is total, I mean, apathy as far as this judgment is concerned.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Dr. Leila Kariwal would like to speak something on the same point. I think, Leila, you can mute yourself.
Okay, just to support Manisha, your point, and Dakshin, your point, and Ramji, your point as well, that the Hindutva project has a very clear-cut binary narrative of heroes and the villain. And this narrative has been applied for the last nearly 100 years. Why did partition occur? Those Muslims and us victims, right? And we are the saving somehow our nation. And anything that has happened in the last 70 odd years, the Hindutva project has always tried to play that binary. It's like a film production which has only one storyline, right? So with COVID virus, it was just very predictable that they will play the same story, right? That us Hindu victim, and these are the threats. So my sense is that this storyline is not going to go away in foreseeable future. And in that sense, the film, we can situate not just as a coronavirus film, but it's a film about unpacking that narrative, which has a long history and it has foreseeable in future. It will keep repeating. Just the topic will change. Now it's coronavirus, then it was demonetization, then it was something else, and tomorrow it will be something else. So we need to basically educate people with this movie to unpack that binary script.
Yes, one small addition. See, she has, as Leila said, I must say that even in the historical narrative, the Hindus are shown to be the victims of the foreign aggressors. I mean, total history is very different from what they think. But basic point is that Hindu society, no problem. Caste system, no problem. All problem has been created either because of Muslim invaders or later on British rulers. But so this way, even last 70 years, we have suffered. Hindu society is victim of what Muslims are doing. So 80% of the society is projected to be the victim in a successful manner of the 14% minority. See, that's where their brilliant logic and selling that logic so brilliantly, that's where it works for them.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so there's one last question. And I think I have given this question a very special place because this comes from one of our right-winger Indian friends. And they've dismissed the film saying that this is all fake media, the film is. And then the message further goes to say that hope, the message does not become a new tool to polarize the communities further. And what role will India Group play against the venom spread on the social media by the right-wing activists and protect innocent people from further atrocities? I associate this this question with the first question that is from one of the right-winger friends. So in response to these two questions, I would like to um, very clearly, decisively, and firmly endorse the film to be only based on facts. There is not a single element of the film that is not cross-checked, that is not a fact. There are no opinions used in the film. There are people who have spoken in the film and they have spoken from their own personal experience. So you would have seen Chinese people speaking, or the people of African origin speaking, or the Roma people speaking. Every single one of them has spoken based on their personal experience, and there are no opinions included in the film. And I know during my conversation with Dakshin a few days ago, we were, discussing, and he was very clear. He very clearly mentioned to me that he's a very creative director. We have seen his work, how he brings the societal challenges with storytelling. And he said it was very difficult to tell the facts in a creative way. And I think he has done that brilliantly and beautifully. So this is something that I can take a personal challenge on, and of course on behalf of our organization India, and on behalf of my company Shatterproof Production, which has made the film. That's number one. Number two, what is India going to do to prevent the media from further harming the society? And what is India going to do to protect the minorities? To that question, I will give a little bit longer winded answer. We are a group of people, Indian people, who care for Indian democracy. We want to save the democracy. We want to prevent genocide from happening in India. We do not live in India. So it will be unfair for us to create a revolution in India because we are safe in the safety environment of our countries. For example, I'm here in UK, I'm completely safe. However, I cannot put somebody at risk knowing what the government does and how they react. People like Ramji, Tistaji, Wali Rahmani, Dhruv Rathi, Mr. Bhushan, these are really Sanjeev Bhatt. These are really brave people. Not everybody in India can be that brave. And Ramji clearly mentioned that there is a lack of volunteers, not because they don't want to do it, but because the government does not allow the democratic process in India. And for the same reasons, we cannot take the responsibility of people to work on the ground level. But as an India organization, what we can do is we can lobby. We can be together, come up together, talk to people in higher positions, talk to members of parliament in the UK or congressmen in US or other countries. We can bring this to light. We can ensure that it is spoken about in the world by the people. And what we have seen with the Black Lives Matter campaign is that after so many years, it took one publicly visible death for the whole world to come together. We cannot wait for that to happen in India because India is heading towards genocide. So what I would request to everybody is to, help us build this community that India has set out to build. And so that we can, although we can't work on the ground level, we can work from outside and ensure that the government of India is pushed into doing the right thing. And that's all we can do. Thank you very much. I would like to ask Ramji if he would like to say any closing remarks, followed by Leila if she would like to have any closing remarks, and
Yeah,
then I will.
thank you. I have expressed my deeper anguish of the problem we face. One is the lack of volunteers, and second is also that our we are not a common platform. Many of us are working against communalism, divisive politics, but our energies are all in a different direction, to be honestly speaking. And our coordination, if we can develop people, all those people, human rights organization, filmmakers, and friends, supporters from abroad, if we can have a supplementary role to each other, that I think will, these two things I think are most important currently in India. And I hope that films like this, they keep coming. They will definitely help our work in India to a very, very great extent. And as Dakshin has acknowledged, it needs to be in Hindi and other regional languages also. That's where the maximum reach comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Leila, if you can have a closing remarks, and then Dakshin, can you, after Leila, can you pick up the for closing remarks, please?
Thank you, Manisha. Brilliant. And really, totally would like to thank the speakers, Ramji and Tistaji. And once again, congratulate Dakshin, Manisha, Naveen, Lotika, and the whole team. And the other directors and the whole team deeply want to congratulate. And it was an excellent combination of art, music, research, activists. Uh, so it already brought together multiple discipline, and it was an intersectional movie because it showed multiple plight: the Adivasis, the the poor, the Muslims, so, and also the global picture and historical. So I think it's an extremely good work. It's a unique work, and hats off to everyone. So congratulations.
Thank you, Leila. Dakshin, over to you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Punani Saab and Tistaji, for your feedback. Really, those feedbacks are really mean to me. And everyone who watched the film and they gave their feedbacks. Unfortunately, I missed that session. I am really grateful, especially Manisha, Naveen, Leila, and entire team. My entire team, who made this important film. And I really wish, because I really don't want that this film should be limited to the English knowing, audience only. It is extremely important that this film should reach to the common man, and we all will together, working together. And I hope we will make, to dub the film in the regional languages and release also, in India. And I'm 100% sure that we will get a good player who can release this film at an international front, and we can use that opportunity to pressurize Indian government to do some, at least something to stop such kind of nonsense which was going on during the first lockdown, and still it is people's memory. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, and adding to Dakshin, I'm going to add a sentence which is what I must do, is that if we have to do the dubbing, we have to have the budget, and so
Yeah.
we are going to open our funding links. So please remember that you will be receiving funding links for that purpose. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I want to especially thank Ramji for coming at such a short notice, and Teestaji for coming at such a short notice, for giving us your wholehearted support, for encouraging us. I want to also thank all the attendees, all those who have taken the trouble to watch the film. Our all the work that Dakshin and Leila and their team and all the work that we have done in raising funds and spreading the word about the film would not have been fruitful if you had not come to this meeting and you had not attended it and you had not watched it and you had not given us your feedback. So thank you very much wholeheartedly for that. And I hand it over back to Cheryl. Cheryl has done such a brilliant job. My greatest applaud and thanks to Cheryl for taking up the challenge and for all the people who have made this happen. So thank you so much. Over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much for the kind words, Manisha, although I really did nothing. Thank you very much, Ramji, Leila, Dakshin, Tistaji, although she's not here right now, and everyone for joining. And in the chat, I've sent out some links. So I've included links to our website, links to the links to the movie's website, Twitter handle links, and Facebook page links. So if you want to get in touch with us, please do reach out. If you have any questions, please do get in touch through either Twitter or send us a message on Facebook. And yeah, please do look at our website and follow the upcoming campaigns that we have. And thank you very much for joining once again. Have a wonderful evening, and hum dekhenge. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Hum
Thank
dekenge.
you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.